Hey, good morning, Duluth Vineyard. Michael here, reflecting this week. We are doing some reflecting on the letter that Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus, Ephesians. This last weekend, I preached on Ephesians chapter 4, the first 6 verses. And it starts out like this: As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. And, in the first half of the letter to the Ephesian church, Paul is basically showing how all of history has come to its climax in Jesus and in his life, death, resurrection, and then his creation of a multi-ethnic community of his followers. And then starting here, verse 1, chapter 4, Paul talks about how the gospel story is actually meant to really affect every single part of my story and your story. It's like meant to affect each of us personally, the way we live with our families and our neighborhoods and our cities, the way we work, the way we spend money, the way we interact on social media. It's actually meant to affect us in every single way that makes us really different from the rest of the world around us, even though we're kind of living in the same world with the same issues and problems. And as I was thinking about that this morning, one of the things I was reflecting on is how, when I first started reading the Gospels and the story of Jesus as a 17-year-old high schooler, maybe 16 at the time even, I remember thinking to myself, man, if this is true, this changes everything. Like everything that I thought I knew about the world, everything I thought I knew about relationships, what I thought I knew about dating, what I thought I knew about my mom and dad. Like, if this stuff is true, it changes all of that. And that's exactly what Paul is saying. Writing from prison because of the gospel, he says, as a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you've received. I like the way he says, not as a prisoner on accident, not as a prisoner because of the brokenness of the system. And believe me, I do believe that the systems are broken. But as a prisoner for the Lord, he sees himself imprisoned for that specific, for Jesus and what Jesus has stood for. I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you've received. I think there's some really specific things in this day and age that God is highlighting to us, that he's addressing, that he's pointing out for us what it means to actually live a life worthy of that calling right here, right now, today. So if you're part of the Duluth Vineyard, you've probably gotten some of these videos before. Maybe you've seen a letter that Brenda sent out this week, really talking about just the racial tension in our country and our world, and the way that God's inviting us as a community to lean into that and address that. My prayer for you is that you would listen to the Holy Spirit in these days, that you wouldn't just take on the anxiety of the world around you, and that you would begin to participate. It's a common refrain, begin to participate with what he's doing in our community as Duluth Vineyard. And so God, would you give us grace to do that? Would you challenge us? And for each of us individually, the reason I'm not highlighting specific things is I want us to hear from the Lord as individuals and begin to participate in that, in what he's calling us. And when we do, that's the Duluth Vineyard at work. That's us following the leadership of God in our community. And so let's do that together. Let's lean into this. Let's see how God might lead us to live a life worthy of the calling we've received. Have a great day. God bless you. Bye-bye.